Hey, what's up, guys? Spencer Rhodes here. Something that a lot of people are talking about in the upcoming season of The Walking Dead is that the show will be kind of a reboot, similar to how season 4 was kind of a reboot of the show when Scott Gimple became the head writer and Glenn Mazzara was removed from the whole thing. It seemed like a reboot for the show, and a lot of people are believing that season 9 will be similar. It might even be even more of a reboot. Season 9 might be the big turning point for The Walking Dead. It might be this big reboot of the show where everything's different, because there's a very big chance that it will, the story right after All Out War, right after the season 8 finale, will be very similar to the comics. And that means that we will have a multi-year time skip, and we will see Alexandria, Hilltop, the Kingdom, all of these communities thriving, and everything looking different, and the characters looking different, and just the environments looking different, and just kind of a whole different style and a different tone for the show. A lot of people are thinking that this is what's going to happen, that this is what we are going to get. So for Rick, that means that he could look different. He does look different in the comics. When A New Beginning starts, years later in the comics, Rick looks different. He has shorter hair, a bigger beard, and a limp, and a new metal hand. I mean, he's not going to have the limp, and he's not going to have the metal hand, because they didn't adapt those parts of the comics where he had those injuries. But he can still look different. We've seen Rick clean shaven at the beginning of the show, where he looked like a normal guy, or he was a sheriff, and we've seen him with the big ass beard, and he's covered in dirt, and his hair is really long. It's been a long time since we've seen him with how he looked in season 1. Even in season 5, where he completely shaved and was completely clean shaven. I think that was just for a few episodes, or the rest of season 5 and the beginning of season 6, and that was it. And that was the only part since season, season 2 or season 3, where Rick was completely clean shaven. He had no fuzz on his face, and even then, he still had his long hair that he had always had, and he's always had long hair since season 3. So it's possible that if he's clean shaven and he has short hair and has a haircut, he will look like he did in season 1, and maybe he will act like he acted in season 1, since the show is going to be a reboot, and that Rick's whole plan is to not kill people. You know, he chose at the season finale to spare Negan, to lock Negan up, to not fight the Saviors anymore, for everyone to live in peace and to rebuild. And the reason he changed was because Carl died, and Carl's letter to him was, stop the fighting, rebuild, people can live together, forgive each other. And Rick's honoring Carl's wish by actually doing those things. He was, just a completely savage killer. I mean, not necessarily in a bad way, but he is kind of a savage killer. In the one episode where Rick and Morgan got captured by the Saviors, and then the Saviors decided to start helping Rick and Morgan, and they actually wanted to go back to Alexandria, and Rick and Morgan just killed them anyway. That was pretty dark. Rick has done some dark things in the show. I'm not saying I don't understand that, and I'm not saying it's out of character or that it doesn't make him the protagonist. He is the protagonist, but he's an interesting protagonist with a dark side, because he believes that as the leader he has to do what's necessary. So, since he read Carl's letter and wants to embrace Carl's final wish, and he has locked Negan up, and he's not going to kill any more Saviors as long as they don't mess with them, he's going to want to just rebuild everything and to thrive, and for these communities to live in peace. He said multiple times in this season, in season 8, the world is yours by right. If you're still here, the world is yours by right. And I think that's where his head is at. So in season 9, if that's going to be years later, he could completely go back to the way he was at the very beginning of the show, and be clean shaven and have short hair and act like he did in season 1. And it's like going full circle. It's like the return of season 1 Rick. I think that would be cool to sort of have season 1 Rick. The only characters from season 1 we're going to have are probably Rick, Daryl, and Carol. We don't know if Morgan's going to have a cameo or appear at all in season 9. He might even be dead by then. We don't know. They could kill him off in fear. So we're not going to have too many familiar elements, at least elements that have dated as far back to the first season of the show. So actually having season 1 Rick would be really cool. As for the show just being a reboot, I hope it is. I hope it is, because season 7 and season 8, basically the last few years of The Walking Dead, have not been that good in my opinion. I think the show has it's just kind of had a downfall in quality. AMC is not wanting to spend any money, and they're not wanting to give the show a proper budget. I'm not sure if I'm kind of done with Scott Gimple's weird ass metaphorical writing, and I want the show to go back to, ironically, how it was in season 1. In season 1, Frank Darabont was the main guy, and obviously he's not anymore. But honestly, I think Frank Darabont was better than Scott Gimple. I really, really like season 1 and season 2. Some people don't like season 2 because it was just a lot of filler and they were at the ranch, but I did like season 2. I liked the group of characters. That was back when we had Shane, Herschel. I know Herschel was an asshole, but it was still okay. That was Rick developing into a harder leader. Shane going batshit crazy, Glenn and Maggie getting together. Andrea was actually well written back then. There's a bunch of stuff I liked in season 2. I really like the characters. I really like the character dynamics, the character development. Daryl was still awesome back then. He had a bunch of catchphrases and crazy shit, and it was low budget, but it had a lot of good character development, and I think it helped get the characters ready for going to the prison and whatnot. And I really kind of give that credit to Frank Darabont. I think the first 2 seasons of The Walking Dead are possibly the best seasons of the show. I like season 4 and season 5; those are the runner-ups. But I really like the beginning of the show when Frank Darabont was involved. I think season 1 is my favorite. Some people say that it was just fast-paced because they only had 6 episodes. Well, if it works, it works. Season 1 worked. I think a lot of people can agree that season 1 had a lot of good stuff in it. It had some problems, but it had a lot of good stuff in it. And rewatch season 1. Rewatch season 1. There was none of this Scott Gimple metaphorical ass. Characters are not talking in rhythms. They're talking like people in a zombie apocalypse. There's none of this rhyming metaphor Gimple writing crap, because he wasn't involved in the show back then. So I'm hoping that the show is kind of like season 1, that it is a reboot, and it's just different. I just want it to be different, and I want the show to have more money, and I want the show to have better writing, and I'm kind of sick of Scott Gimple's crap. So being a reboot and doing a different kind of Rick Grimes and having a different kind of Rick Grimes on the show might be the best thing for the show at this point. The ratings are going down. A lot of people are just pissed off and tired of the show in the last few years. So rebooting the show and making things different in a good way could be the best thing that's ever happened to not just the show but the franchise. So I support anything that's different, anything that's a reboot and it's good. I think having a shaved, clean-shaven, short-haired Rick Grimes and sort of having him come full circle from how he was in season 1 could be a good thing. So I completely support that. Anyway, guys, those are my thoughts on the situation. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Don't be shy. Hit that like and subscribe. I'm not going anywhere. We are at 99 subscribers right now, so please hit that subscribe button and help me get to my goal of 250. Anyway, I'm Spencer Rhodes, and I will see you guys later. Bye.